Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new AP items that are going to be coming in patch 8.4. So first up, we're going to take a look at a few different champions that will be getting indirectly stronger in 8.4, and then after that, we'll take a look at a few new item combinations and a few different champions that might be strong with a few different items now in patch 8.4. So champions that would buy tier and that rely on mana, in my opinion, are going to get a lot stronger for the next patch. Champions like Anivia, Ryze, Cassiopeia, all these champions who had tier in their core build are really going to like the changes heading into next patch, because tier now in its build path has Lost Chapter. So you have the ability to go tier and Lost Chapter now in the early game. You can build that into the Archangel, and the Archangel staff now gives you 20% CDR. That's super big on these champions like Ryze and Cassiopeia, because in their previous build paths, they didn't really build a whole lot of CDR, or the items that they bought and the items that were core on them didn't include very much CDR. Rod of Ages and Archangel were pretty core, or they probably will still be pretty core on Ryze and Cassiopeia, but they never provided any CDR. So you'd reach the mid game with these champions and you'd have very minimal CDR, but because this now is going to give you 20% CDR, you can also take Transcendence and have 30% CDR. So once you reach level 10 now on these champions, and once you reach the mid game, you're going to have a lot more CDR than you would in previous patches, and I think it's just going to make these champions a lot stronger now come the mid game. So next up here, a few different champions that were already previously pretty good with Liandry's and Rylai's, I think will get quite a bit stronger in 8.4. So a few champions here that I think will get stronger are Cassiopeia, Brand, Aurelion Sol, and then Mordekaiser, I think is one that a lot of people are talking about right now. So if you don't know, Rylai's is getting a change to where it's going to get an extra 10 AP in 8.4. So you're just getting free AP there and nothing else is getting changed on the item. And then Liandry's is getting changed quite a bit. You're no longer going to be getting the 15 magic pen from it, but what you will be getting now is when you're in combat for a certain duration, you're going to gain 10% extra damage from your abilities. So that's going to be really nice here on these sustained damage champions, in my opinion, like the Cassiopeia and the Aurelion Sol. And the passive is getting changed on Liandry's to where the dot damage is now going to scale off of 1% of the target's maximum health instead of 2% of the target's current health. What this means now for Liandry's is that when the target is above 50% HP, you will be dealing less damage from the dot, but when they're below 50% HP, you will be dealing more damage from these changes. So it is going to be a little bit harder to shred a tank down when he is at full HP, but once he does reach below half HP, it's going to be a little bit easier to finish off champions now with these changes. And that is a reason to why a lot of people are thinking Mordekaiser could be a lot stronger in next patch, just because once you do your burst damage with Mordekaiser and then you throw your ultimate on the champion, your ultimate is usually there to finish off the target. And now with these changes to Liandry's, you will be dealing more damage with your Mordekaiser ultimate once they do get low on HP. So these are definitely some pretty nice changes for him. And the final champion I think will get indirectly buffed by these changes is going to be Viktor. So Viktor is no longer going to be as punishable in the laning phase now due to these item changes. Lost Chapter is now going to cost 1.1k gold, and that means that the window where the enemy wants to base and when Viktor wants to base is going to be a lot closer now, and that means it's going to be a little bit harder to actually punish Viktor in the laning phase due to the fact that you do want to base at a very similar time. Rylai's is also getting that buff in this patch now, so I'm not too sure if this item will become core again on Viktor, but it was an item that he used to buy and people are still buying it right now on him in this patch. So I think overall these are going to be some pretty nice changes for Viktor. Now, if we move on to taking a look at a few different interesting item combinations and which items might now be good on a few different champions, Morello is getting kind of completely reworked in this next patch, and not a single item is going to have the Morello passive on it anymore, to where when you do end up getting a kill or an assist during a team fight, you're no longer going to gain 20% of your missing mana. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. You gained a certain amount of mana back on a kill or an assist, and that's no longer going to be in the game. So what this means is that your mana sustain in team fights now is going to be a lot less, and even though a lot of these items did end up getting extra mana put on them, I still feel like you are going to be running into mana issues now if you don't end up getting blue buff. Now, theoretically, you would think that a Luden's Rush would be pretty good in this next patch on champions like Xerath or Lux or Vel'Koz, but I think that the fact that Luden's only gives you 500 mana and Morellonomicon gave you 400 mana in the previous patches, it's only a 100 mana increase there on the Luden's, and you're no longer going to have that mana sustain during team fights. So you can use like one extra ability there with that extra 100 mana, and I think because of that, you will find yourself running into mana issues now, especially on these poke champions, and due to that fact, I think we might see more of these poke-oriented mid laners end up going for the Archangel Staff as their first item now, instead of something like the Luden's or the GLP. If you are playing in the higher elos to where you know your jungler is going to give the mid laner blue every single time, then I think that a Luden's Rush would be completely fine, but I just feel like mana issues during team fights on these poke champions is going to be a lot more prevalent in this next patch here, and we'll have to wait and see, but I do think that more champions now will end up going for Archangel Staff as their first item. Next up, we're going to take a look at this new build path here that I've kind of theorized might become really strong in 8.4. So what this build path consists of is either going for an Archangel Staff, Luden's, or GLP as your first item, second item going into a Twin Shadows, and then also taking Transcendence as one of your runes. So there are a few different reasons to why I think this build path may be really good in 8.4. The first reason is that it's one of the only ways that you're actually going to be able to get 40% CDR on a lot of these mid lane champions without having to go Lucidity boots. If you don't know, there's a unique passive now on the Archangel, the Luden's, and the GLP to where you can only gain 10% CDR once from these items. So if you do end up getting an Archangel and a Luden's, you're only going to be getting 30% CDR because you can't stack that unique passive of the extra 10% CDR that those items give. The second reason to why I think this could be a really nice build path is because Twin Shadows is a very cheap item. It's only 2,400 gold, and that means you're going to be hitting your 40% CDR very early on into the game. So on certain champions that do benefit a lot from CDR, I think this build path could be really strong. So I'm not saying that this item path is going to be super OP or anything. It's just interesting because it is a very cheap item path that is going to get you to 40% CDR, and there isn't really any other item combinations for most mid lane champions that will get you to 40% CDR unless you do go for the Lucidity boots. And then for a few champions that come to mind that I think this build path could be good on, I think Xerath and Lux are two that could really benefit from this path. Having the Twin Shadows active there on Xerath and Lux is really nice because it just makes hitting their skill shots a lot easier. And then also having 45% CDR in the mid game as someone like Lux and just having your ultimate on such a short cooldown is really potent, and I think that because of this, it might be a really nice build path on her. And then lastly here, because of the changes to Morellonomicon to where the grievous wounds are now going to apply no matter what HP the enemy is, I think this will be a nerf to champions like Vladimir, especially if you are playing up against Vladimir. Then Morello as a first or second item could be really good against that champion. I don't think you will end up going Morello as a first item anymore because it's getting completely changed around to where it's no longer going to give you you mana. It's also gonna give you HP now, so it's basically a completely different item, but it does still have that grievous wounds on there. So Vladimir and any other sustained champions, I think will get indirectly weaker in patch 8.4. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Now I know I didn't go over every single AP item that is getting changed in this next patch in a lot of detail, so if you do think I missed like a certain champion or a certain build path that could be really good in 8.4, then be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I kind of just wanted to like summarize and share my opinions on what I thought of these items heading into next patch and which champions will be getting stronger. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you have yet to already, and I will see you in my next video.